corner. You like the smell? I love the corner. Oh yeah. It's one thing to like smell.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. And this is the one meeting a year that I have to call to order because we elect a chair and vice chair this evening. So if you would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So next order of business is 3.0, and it's nomination and election of board. Well, we have to do board chair and vice chair tonight, and that's in our policy BDB. And so we'll start with board chair, and I'd invite any board members to nominate someone for a chairperson.
Patrick.
Jamie, sorry.
Sorry.
You scared me. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person, but I just want to recognize Lou for his outstanding leadership over the past several years. He's the type of leader who is fair, gives everyone a chance to speak, and is really great when there is any amount of contention. And therefore, I'd like to nominate Lou as our board chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other nominations for chair? All right, hearing none, then we'll close the nominations, and all in favor of Lou Ensel as continuing as chair. All right, unanimous.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Congratulations, Lou.
Thank you.
Next, I invite a nomination for vice chair.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Jamie. It's just always wonderful working with her. She's such a great team player and leader, and she really knows how to balance everything together. And it's just a joy working with her. So I would like to nominate Jamie Dorr.
Second by Megan. Any other nominations for vice chair? No? All right, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Jamie. So at this point, I'll turn the meeting over to our, I won't say new chair, but our
Continuing chair.
All right.
Yeah.
All yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the vote of confidence in both of us. Before I go forward, I don't know, Jamie, if there's anything you want to say. I'm sorry you can't be here today, but it's always wonderful working with you. And, we have a great board that we work with, and just appreciate everybody's vote of confidence.
I would second that, Lou, and just really appreciate the respect that each of us has for one another. And it's a really outstanding board when you consider things that are happening throughout the country. So I just want to thank everyone for that.
Thank you. And so speaking of that, I'd like to just recognize Rachel Morse, our newest member from Arousik. Welcome, and we're glad to have you, and we really appreciate you being here. And of course, we're all available if you've got questions, or, know you were a teacher for a long time and you still work in the field of education, but it's a little different from this side. So if you have any questions, feel free to call on us and ask, and we look forward to your perspective. Thank you. I think we'll move on from that. New year, January, trying to get through January with all of our, I think our biggest challenge might be remote learning when the snow comes back, as we've had more snow days, I think, than we thought we'd have at this point. That's going to be a challenge for the administration. But let's move on to, we got a lot of stuff today, a lot of good stuff. So let's move on to the approval of minutes. Anybody have any comments on the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve? Yeah.
I move approval.
Okay. And do I have a
Second.
second? Thank you. All in favor? Okay, we'll move on from there. Any, do we need to make any adjustments to agenda? We all set? Public session? Anyone from the public? No? Okay. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Patrick, for our first staff report.
Yeah, so our very happy Mr. Walsh is here tonight, but also Becky Glenny, our STEM plus M teacher. A lot of you came to, the kind of the ribbon cutting ceremony that we had. We're thrilled with the program. $500,000 worth of grant money over a period of time that brought us a lot of the curriculum materials, all of the furniture, all of the technology that's in there. And Becky's been a trooper. I mean, she went to the training this summer. She's been very much a team player. Took this on kind of at the last minute, and the students have been very excited about it. So we are thrilled to have you here tonight to kind of walk us through the program and share kind of your reactions to it, as well as some of the students' reactions. So thank you for being here. Did you bring us treats? Oh.
Are we able to put my presentation up? Yeah. Thank you so much. So my name is Becky, and I teach STEM over at Bath Middle. And I am just talking a little bit about the grant and kind of what that's looked like over at BMS this year. I've got a mixture of pictures from the STEM plus M like official website, but also from my classroom to kind of show you what's been going on. And I'm going to kind of break down the grant and what it's looked like. So far, I've only taught it with my 8th graders. The way BMS is structured this year, I taught all of my 8th graders in the fall. The second trimester is my 6th grade curriculum, and in the spring, I'll be teaching my 7th graders. So the grant was roughly $500,000 as stated over 5 years. This supported the remodel. You can see my classroom on the last day of school, and then you can see it during pre-planning as it was starting to get full of all of its equipment. And this also covered the materials used to teach the class. So all of the consumable products that we've used will be covered for the first 5 years. This is a 1-semester program that the company very graciously broke into 2 trimesters for us. And so 7th and 8th grade students are using the grant curriculum. I have a couple of copies of what the curriculum map looks like and what the logbooks look like. I'll just pass them. You don't have to really look at them if you don't want to, but it shows you kind of what the kids are seeing and what the pacing looks like for the students. Is there a way to get it to the next slide? Thank you. The grant itself was meant to support CTE careers. The M in STEM plus M stands for manufacturing, and it's also really related to the science standards that the students were already learning. These are the 6 main branches of what the curriculum covers. And in each of those are a bunch of like hands-on labs and career connections. Bath Middle was chosen for a number of reasons. This grant focuses on middle schoolers with the idea that middle school is a really good time to begin exploring career pathways. Bath also has some really great opportunities for students who enjoy this. They can continue their learning when they go to the high school if they choose to apply to Bath Tech. There are also a lot of community connections over at BIW to give students ways to apply what they're learning now and in the future. 8th graders began the curriculum in September. Their first unit was Intro to Manufacturing, which had a heavy focus on hand tools and careers in manufacturing. I've got some like little nail string art that the students made. For better or for worse, I get the ones that they don't want to take home. So there were some really, really cool ones, but these still look really awesome and they did a great job. Some of them, it was like their first time using a hammer and they were given a wide variety of nails. So some of the kids like split their board completely in half the first time. And so it's just a great way for them to see new things. The final project in this unit was building a cart with a variety of hand tools. And you can see 2 of my students celebrating their victorious cart. This was the very first unit that they did. From there, the curriculum broke into rotations. So I was essentially teaching 4 different things at once. So 6 kids were doing 3D printing, while 6 other kids were using CNC machines to make marble ramps, where 6 more kids were doing a deep dive on electronics, and then 6 more kids were doing the robotics unit. Right here, I've got Carter's robot, and I promised him back in November that I would bring his robot. He spent not only class time, but he came down during his lunch and enrichment to make sure this robot would get done. He did not use a guidebook for this robot. He completely built it from his own creativity, which was really cool to see. In the electronics unit, the students were not just building things on the circuitless breadboard, but they were also learning to solder. And they created these cute little blinky boards where they had to make sure the current was going in the right direction. They had to solder everything themselves. And I was a little bit nervous the first time I handed an 8th grader a soldering iron, but everyone was good and nobody got injured. And I'm really proud of them and me. And then this all kind of culminated in their final project. And this was a race. I set up a 20-foot water track in the back of my room, which was another thing I was a little bit nervous about, having a giant pool of water for a week, but it went really well. The students used skills from the 4 rotations. So on this boat, you can see they designed and printed their propellers with the 3D printer. They soldered their motors in place, and they did all of the wiring themselves. And then they built and planned the rest of the boat to race down the aqua track. And then unfortunately the photo's not great, but that's a picture of my whiteboard with their data that they were collecting, showing how the weight of what their boat was carrying either helped or hurt their boat. Some of them were shocked that more weight helped their boat because it sunk the boat a little bit and made the propellers hit the water better. So it was a learning experience for everyone. I've got a little picture here of Timmy the boat, and I also have a video of some students who wanted to talk about their project. I do not have Timmy here with me today because Timmy was such a celebrity that he went home with the students, and he now lives in a student's house. But this is Timmy the boat. Maybe. And then just a quick summary, all units had hands-on projects as well as career connections. I surveyed the students pretty frequently to try to get student feedback, and 88% of them agreed that they liked the rotations at the end, which is a lot for 8th grade, in my opinion. Currently, the 6th grade curriculum has units that complement what they're learning in 7th and 8th grade, even though it's not based in the grant. And 7th graders will complete the first half of the curriculum in the spring. So right now, I've only seen the second half of it with students, but yeah. Thank you guys for having me. Do I have any questions or anything I can help with?
Folks have questions? Go ahead.
I have lots of questions about lots of things. Thank you, Becky. That was wonderful. Do you think after you get done the full curriculum and have a time to kind of like reflect on it and find, your ins and outs of it, do you think there'd ever be a unit that you could take out of it that wouldn't maybe require a whole lab? And I ask because I'm wondering if it's like scalable to do at Woolwich. If it's sometimes some things you can't take apart because they all rely on everything else. I totally understand, but I was just wondering if maybe by the time when you reflect on it at the end of the year, if there might be something you could share, because it's a great opportunity.
I definitely think so. I think that especially like the intro lesson would probably be something that could be applied across, and that one really gets into like what is the engineering design process, and that would have equipment that would be easy to move between schools. I think that for some of the like rotational based stuff, it might be harder because it's bigger equipment that would be harder to move. But I think some of the units, it'll be easier for me to know once I've taught 7th grade, because I think those are the more, the units that might be a little bit more applicable in that situation.
Kurt, you
Thanks for that presentation. It was really interesting. Is it the whole student body that is part of STEM plus M?
Yes, I teach essentially every student in the school. The only students I don't teach are the students who are in our APP program, and I'm working with Leah and Micah to teach them in the spring. But we agreed that it might make more sense for them to do the 7th grade curriculum because they have 7th and 8th grade students. And so throwing them into the 8th grade curriculum might not make sense. So by the end of the school year, I'll have taught essentially everyone in the building.
Great. And then I saw in the video in the background, I think on the wall it said buildsubmarines.com.
Yes, that is one of the big sponsors.
That was, yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
go ahead, Kate.
I'm curious, compared to past years, and this year with this curriculum in 8th grade, how you feel engagement of students compares.
I think it
Obviously, every class is
yeah.
different, but I'm wondering if you're finding, I guess what I'm asking is, they seem 88% or 80%, whatever it was, of 8th graders to like anything is a very big deal. And so I'm curious what your sort of thoughts on that are.
I felt like most students were pretty engaged. There were definitely a handful of students who really liked this curriculum more than before because they felt it was more geared at something kind of based in the real world. There were some kids who really struggled with it being as digital as it was, because most of the lessons I give an introduction, but then they get the meat of the material from videos. And that doesn't work for every learner. It works for most of them, but not all of them.
Do you have a question?
Katie asked my question.
Oh, Katie asked your question. Rachel's, yeah. No. It was a great presentation. Thank you. Tell me again, what's the time, like how long are they in there for?
It's
in the
a
year?
5-year grant.
No, I meant,
Oh, sorry.
is it the
It's a trimester.
So for one trimester, so
Yes.
so it's in rotation with other things that they're doing?
Yes. So
Okay.
students will take STEM for one trimester, and then they will take health for a trimester,
Okay.
and then they will take art for a trimester.
Okay, so that's the rotation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks
guys
for
so
being
much
here.
for having me.
Yes, thanks. Okay. 10.0 student board, you're up, Charlie.
Okay, I guess I'm on my own tonight without
Yep.
Charles, but that's okay. Push through.
Charlie, Chuck.
So it's the start of the second semester, which means we had midterms last week, and those are all out of the way. And during exams, we had 8th graders from both Woolwich and BMS come up to visit all the Bath Tech programs. And it's definitely a little bit chaotic at times in the lunchroom, but it was really cool to see the next generation experiencing all that Morse has to offer. As well as those programs, sports and winter sports are in the height of their seasons. The next indoor track meet is Thursday at Bowdoin, and then girls basketball is playing home both today and Friday. So they have a busy week. Unified basketball had their first practice of the year today, and they have another practice or two, but then there'll be some games to come, which is really exciting. And then during sporting events, the boosters have given clubs and teams the opportunity to have a snack shack takeover where they can run the snack shack concession stand out there and receive 50% of the profits for their club, which at least Drama Club, Interact Club, and Girls Lacrosse and Bath Tech have all taken advantage of, which is it's a great way to get students out to these games as well. As for clubs, Mid-Coast Youth Activists, which is relatively new, organized a poster making today to raise awareness for different issues in the world and our community going on, and I think there was a pretty good turnout for that. And on the Friday before Martin Luther King Day a few weeks ago, SCLC hosted a lunchtime meeting here in the Fishbowl, and they had Martin Luther King's speeches playing on the Promethean board so students could come, or teachers, and hear him talk. And it was cool because a lot of people hadn't actually heard his voice before, and I hadn't either. It's super powerful. And yeah, that's pretty much all. Second semester is just beginning, so lots more to come in the rest of the year, but that's all.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Charlie? That's great. Thanks so much for the report. Yep, second semester starting. Good luck. Okay, we are to the superintendent's report. Patrick, go right ahead.
Just a few items. We had, I think, 25 to 30 staff that were trained in the CSTAG, which I sent to you guys, but it's really comprehensive school threat assessment. So if a threat is made at one of our schools, could be at the elementary level, high school level, it's a research-based program out of the University of Virginia that allows there were teams of social workers, guidance counselors, administrators that were here and received one part of the training online and the second part in person. And so it gives us a common understanding of how we would approach a threat, verbal threat, typically, and to find out if it's a transient threat or if it's a very substantial threat, and there's different levels and there's forms to use. And so it puts us all on the same page. We can bring people from different schools that have had this training to a school that we need them at. And so we plan to do more of a in-depth presentation with the board so you can hear more about it at a future date. So, but very well received. And the person that did it, Mr. Babcock from the state, it was very effective. Winter Kids, Phippsburg is part of a 4-week competition that encourages students to get outside and be healthy during the winter months, which is good right now. And they're competing against several schools across the state for a cash prize of $5,000. And knowing Nina, they got a good chance. She's a competitive person. So they were on Channel 8 last night for, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but they had to do some type of competition, and they were recognized last night on Channel 8, which we'll get up on our website soon. I think you saw maybe in Jason's note, Woolwich Student Leadership Team. The ideas all come from the students, and it was great to see that they let us start with Hello Week, which is really an event promoting kindness, inclusion, and connection for all students at Woolwich. So again, I'm continue to be impressed with that leadership team. Here we have PALS, which is new, and that is a new peer tutoring program that we have here. And students have been nominated by staff, is what I've been told, and serve as peer tutors. And that will also help us with our Tier 2 intervention that we do here at Morse. And then lastly, I didn't hear this, but it was passed on to me by multiple people today, that last night when the governor did her state address, that cell phones were mentioned, encouraging the state to have a full statewide ban, but also I think it was a quote maybe from student, or Morse was mentioned.
Morse student.
Okay.
No, it was from a Morse
Okay.
student.
And so that's wonderful, to hear. So that's all I have.
I never know exactly where to put this, but I was reading the board reports and I saw in 2 different places that Morse had hosted other schools at the Montgomery Theater to help share that. And I think that's just a wonderful thing because it's so nice that we can share all the things that we've done here at Morse with the other schools. And I know it's a scheduling thing and it's so complicated, but I just really wanted to show appreciation definitely for that. And I also wanted to say that, it was really nice hearing the feedback from the kids, but also just understanding that this is one of those moments when I love that we hear so much from this is how our kids feel, all the leadership things. And I feel like their voices are just getting stronger and stronger. And I just, of all the board reports, you hear those things. And I really appreciate the kids and the voices that we have in our community. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, Deb, financial report.
And I think our student board rep does a wonderful job speaking out. Tonight, we're looking at December, and everything is going pretty much as planned. We have spent about $21.5 million, so about 44%, which is in line with where we normally are. I think there's like 3 reports that I look at this time of year, and one is basically where we're at with salaries, with benefits, with substitute use. And I just pulled them today and compared them to last year, and we're pretty close to where we were last year. So that sort of tells me that we'll probably end the year about where we did last year. So that's good. I mean, it's in the positive. Revenue, we're at 23, almost 23.5 million there. And once again, that's at 52%. So we're in line pretty much with everything that we're planning on doing at this time of year. Budgets are entering all the budget requests from the schools. So pulling it all together to get that bottom line to start that process. And that's it.
Great,
Questions?
thank you. Yeah, Jennifer, go.
Can't believe you're saying budget already. I feel like we just got there. So I was reading one of the board reports from the special ed report about outplacement of students. So we have outplacement services that we give to students and even the pre-K students. And I was looking at the financial statement and wondering, the special education tuition line, is that the total cost for our outplacement programs for SPED, or is that?
It's outplacement for SPED, but not the new pre-K. The new pre-K is a different fund number that's funded 100% by the state for this first year, so.
And then next year, that expense will come into our budget.
No, it shouldn't.
No.
No,
Oh.
next year.
Okay, not next year, okay.
And Karen's working on, trying to bring some of those outplaced students back into the district, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Work
She
in
said should be
progress.
a savings, right?
Yeah,
bring 'em
I mean,
back.
that's usually,
Ultimately,
that's the hope.
Great. Any other questions for Deb, where we're at? Well,
Okay,
thank you,
thank
Deb.
you.
Appreciate it. Fundraiser requests?
Yeah, that's just a FYI for you, just so that all board members can, understand. We don't catch them all, I'll say that. I mean, there's some that come in after this, but just gives you an idea in the community of what we're asking for fundraising efforts. So if you ever had a concern that we're asking for too much, or there's one that you think is out of line, then it gives you a chance to ask questions. But
Yep.
Anyway.
Any questions on those? No? All right. 12.0, we're looking at second reading of the board policies. This is an action item. It's 12.1, let's see, point A, JL, student wellness. Any concerns, questions before a motion? If not, may I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay. We have a second? Second by Patty, great. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that passes. So student wellness is complete. And under new business, the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, Katie, I'm going to hand it over to you.
So I'm gonna pass around slides in case it's hard for you guys to see. And Charlie, I'll start this with you. I'm gonna go over just sort of a summary of the highlights because it's a very, very long survey. So these are just, these larger packets are the full responses, one for BMS, one for Woolwich. You have the Morse one. If you guys care to look at them, if you just want to listen to the highlights, that's okay too, but I just wanted people to have a sense, not wasting paper, of what the full survey looks like. There might be enough if you guys want the slides too. We'll send it back around. Yeah? You're welcome. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to stand back a little. The MIHAS, or the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, we have been waiting here mostly at Morse, like with hope and excitement that these scores would come in and show us that all of the things we've been doing and spending time, money on are working, and they are. And so I have mostly good news to share this evening, which is really, really exciting. So just for those of you who don't know what the MIHAS survey is, it's a survey that every student, unless their family opts them out of it, takes in essentially 6th through 12th grade. It happens every 2 years. The last time this happened was the winter of last year. So this is 2005 data. So essentially a whole year almost. It's every February, every 2 years has passed. It takes them that long to get everything back and to coordinate it and send it back out. So we've only had our hands on this since early December. And so you can say hopefully we've made even more improvements since this information came out. When it was given in the winter of 2025, you can see the totals of the students who took it. It's almost 100% of all the students in the different schools. Some schools, if they have a 5 through 12 program, or their schools 5 through 8, you can have 5th graders do it. We cut it off at our middle school just because of how our programs in our buildings are K-5 and then 6 through 12. And all the graphs you'll see in the slides are actually Morse graphs, because the data comes out in the larger packets. You'll see one's Morse, one's Woolwich, one's BMS, but I made sure that whatever I was sharing as a Morse slide was also similarly reflected in BMS and Woolwich, so we could assume they all look similar, so you didn't have too many things you had to be looking at once. Okay, thank you, Jenny. You can go to the next. Okay, so we'll start with all the good news. Students feel as safe or safer, and virtual bullying has decreased. So let me show you here how to read these, because I screenshotted from the large report you're looking at. So the first column that says questions, that's what the students were actually asked on the survey, so you can get a sense of the wording. Answers of interest, so it essentially tells you, because a lot of these are yes or no or how much, how to understand what percent is shared. And then one number is our school. Down, depending on what answer is the sort of positive answer. And then this is how we compare to the aggregate of the whole state of Maine, if that makes sense. And their scores in 2023 and 2025. These things are also looked at as trends across every county in Maine. And so, for instance, Maine Health, that we do a lot of work with them, and obviously Jamie's organization, Midcoast Youth Center, they tend to get to look at the Sagadahoc scores, and we actually already had Jesse Chalmers from Maine Health come and present at Morse on the county data, and then Morse was able as a staff to look at the broader report and analyze their own school. And so they've seen this as well. And so you can see that the first trend is kids feel essentially safer. You can go to the next one. I'm not going to read every single question just because we'd be here for a very long time. Good news, increase in students feeling cared about and helped by adults at school. So one thing we always want to look for is making sure that every student has a person they can reach out to, someone who they feel like in a crisis they can trust, because when we talk about the protective factors that actually help students who have trauma, having one trusted adult essentially to help them through anything is one of the most sort of robust preventative measures that we can give students. So a lot of these questions in the survey are actually items related to relationships and mattering and relationships. And so when scores were maintained or went up slightly, that's when we can sort of consider it to be fairly good news. Maintaining how students feel about school issues being fairly addressed was something else I put out there. So question 58 was, how often do adults in your school address conflict, negative language, and bullying in positive ways to help students? You can see that this is staying relatively the same and is a little bit higher than the state of Maine. And so I think one tricky thing, and when Maine Health representatives come and talk to us about this, it's hard to see the little percentages as meaning a lot, but you have to think about that that's representative. Every percentage point is representative of many individual humans in a school our size. And so each percentage point does matter, or maintaining does matter, because it means that things are at least level or improving. Okay, go to the next. Other good news, increase in students feeling like they matter to the community and are encouraged at school. So these scores, especially that top one, number 60, is something that if Jamie were here, she'd probably be really excited to talk more about. We actually work on grants together with Maine Health and Midcoast Youth Center, where we're looking specifically at question number 60 is, if students feel like they matter, they tend to have in a community, whatever that is, whether it's the town of Woolwich or Bath or Phippsburg or in a school, they tend to achieve better overall, both socially, emotionally, and academically. And so that number going up from 45 to almost 53 speaks a lot for the work we've done across this community, both within the buildings and without. Okay, you can go to the next one. Good news mostly. Okay, so some of these questions, if you look at the full packet, they are very, very, I don't know what word we'd use. They go deep into how students feel, what their tendencies are with any kind of substance use, with any sort of sexual behavior, even with fruits and vegetables they eat. It kind of runs the gamut in terms of questions. And so one of the other big things we look for overall is just, how are kids doing mentally and emotionally? And these are some scores that Saginaw as a county in general has been very concerned with for a while. And one of the reasons why Jamie started the work long ago with bringing the police together and the hospital together, and when there was many suicides, youth suicides in our area. If you look at the data here, so the first question is, during the past 12 months, did you ever feel so sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or more in a row that you stopped doing some usual activities? So the good news is we went from 42% And you want that to decrease, right, to 36%. I think the thing that's really hard that Saginaw has been dealing with for a while is if you look at the H and the H at the end there, essentially what that says is our numbers are statistically more significant compared to the state of Maine. So in general, if you look at the 35 in Maine versus our school in 23, that was 42, and the 27 versus 36, while we are making progress, these numbers are still far higher than the average of other counties. I'm going to talk about why, because that data also comes up a little later. And then suicide ideation has decreased, but it's also still higher than the state. So you can see the 24 to 20 is us. And then in the state, it was 17 to essentially 13. Okay. Okay. So just to remind the board of all of the great things going on, the partnerships we have, the things you have generously chosen to fund in the budget. We have our partnerships with NYC and their Waypoint program, as well as just their general organization. Through Maine Health, we have various grants, and also we have the school-based health center grant. We also have the CHIF funding, which is all the new Maine Health funding that does the enrichment activities after school that we've started hearing more about. And then with our police and sheriff departments, they are currently teaching our substance use and relationship education program called LEADS, which is helping a lot of these issues. And then currently our McKinney-Vento, our homeless liaison, and our grants for families at high risk of homelessness or who are homeless is coming through Maine Housing. And that's all being worked with through NYC as well. So there's a lot of people. It's not just our school district that's doing this work. Obviously, the increased social work that our principals asked for after COVID to not go away, I think that has a huge impact in a positive direction on these numbers changing. I know, Leslie Trundy has gotten a lot of international traction for her detention hikes and become a little bit famous for that. But I think, we are trying in some areas alternative discipline. So hiking instead of doing a 3-hour detention, or for students who get caught for substance use, getting to choose educational prevention program as their consequence and attending that instead. We are trying different things that are supportive and try to proactively solve the problem rather than just punish for it. So I think that that's also part of this. Our new social and emotional curriculum that we invested in last year, that's helping students at all levels. We have SOS is like student assistance teams essentially at every school that talk through students that are at high risk for whatever reason and develop preventative programming around them. Obviously, our school-based health center has many different services. They also now fund a tobacco and substance use counselor that students can get therapy through, and that's starting to get used. Credit Pathways program and our now alternative pathways program at BMS. I've already mentioned LEADS. The Dropout Prevention Committee is still meets multiple times a year to go over all the different ways we're trying to tackle the problems that come up in this survey. And then just lots of alternative programming that we've really branched out at least I can say in the 9 years I've been here, adding Unified, adding a lot of different electives and enrichment opportunities for all different kinds of students. All of our clubs that we have, our multilingual programming and offerings that we provide. And then a huge one that I think, Janet Mills gave us the shout out, but I think being the first to take away screens and really trying to push relationship building in school and focus rather than, social media, which we know when we looked at the research causes students to have higher anxiety and depression levels. So, okay. So thank you. I think where we see continued challenges, this is where, compared to the state of Maine, the county we live in and the towns we live in, students report having higher levels of worries about safety at home. And this is their reporting. So if you look at question 12, has violence in your home or the threat of violence ever made you want to leave your home, even just for a short while? And so this is moving in the right direction. However, you can still see, comparatively to the state, this area still has a higher percentage of those issues of safety and violence happening. And another pattern that we're seeing in the continued challenges is substance use is also comparatively high. So have you ever lived with an adult who had a problem with alcohol or drugs? And our numbers are, 43, 45 versus 34, 35 in the state. This is for Morse, but the county data is very similar. Okay. I think one positive thing we're seeing is BMS and Woolwich substance use data is stable or improving, which is great at the lower grades. However, obviously substance use tends to be definitely a high school issue, although it does happen at 7th and 8th and 6th grade. And so it's still definitely something we need to look into here. So during the last 30 days, how many days did you smoke cigarettes? That has increased. How many days did you use an electronic vape? That has increased. During the past 30 days, how many days did you have at least one drink of alcohol? That has increased. You can see at the state levels, those levels have either stayed the same or actually decreased comparatively. So again, this is something that's very prevalent in our area. You can go ahead. I think, Jen, this maybe was one of the reasons you were raising your hand, why here? And you can see this question's all about access. How easy would it be for you to get alcohol? How easy would it be for you to get marijuana? Our students are reporting similar to the state, although the second one, marijuana, is a little more, it seems like, accessible here, which you can see just by looking around when you drive in Bath. And so it's not hard to get your hands on, the students are sharing. So the accessibility is part of the issue. You can go on. I also would say, other than students reporting the violence in their homes and the substance use in their homes and how easy it is to get, I think this continues to be a piece of data that really is one of the root reasons why some of our scores in this area are higher. I know we've done a presentation for the board on ACEs before, but you can see on the left-hand side there, it stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And essentially, they're looking for the percentage of students who have reported 4 or more. The reason why they're looking for that number, and I've listed what they consider the main ACEs. So we have abuse, that's physical, emotional, or sexual, neglect, that's physical or emotional, and any sort of household challenges. So mental illness, household member with substance use, parental separation, household member who's incarcerated, or domestic violence. Essentially, there's a scale that they found that the more ACEs a person can check off, the more likely it is that they will struggle in school with their mental health or otherwise. And so you can see that comparably to the state, our students do score higher on how many essentially traumas they can check off. And so we have the 2 H's of statistically higher results for students reporting these things having happened to them. And so that's something when we continue to think about what we fund and what we promote, no one can learn if their basic needs and traumas aren't being met. And so I think what's good news is we're moving in the right direction. I think, we can't solve everything outside of the doors of this building. And clearly there's still a lot going on for our students. But I felt really good looking at most of these results, feeling like the needle is moving in the right direction. And I did just want to point out one other piece of research, and I did say this before, but you can see the asterisk at the bottom, that positive childhood experiences, or PCEs, are protective factors and can mitigate the adverse effect of ACEs. So essentially, safe, stable, and nurturing relationships build resiliency and are the one thing that they know helps combat ACEs. So when we think about the mattering, like, do you matter to someone? Will someone care if you show up? Will someone care if you're not there? Does someone care that you're doing well? That's actually one of the best things we can do for our students to help combat the things we can't control outside of these walls. So I just wanted to share that when we think about what we're choosing to spend our time and money on, obviously the academics are really important, but making sure we're thinking about everything else so they can access academics is equally as important. So questions, I'm sure you have some.
Yeah, questions. Who wants to go first? Jennifer, you want to go first?
It's a great report about very difficult things, and I think it's just wonderful that we have this resource. I remember in the past, when I was reading some of the questions, sometimes I would ask myself, well, someone's sad, how sad are they, or how long? The questions seem to be a little more specific, just in the few that you've seen. Do you think the wording and the questions have changed between the 2 years of data that we're looking at all? Do you think?
I actually think they try to keep it as consistent as possible.
Okay.
Maybe a word tweak here or there. I'm not an expert on how they design the survey, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to say more than that.
And do the students take this at a different time of year every year? Is it
It's always February.
Okay.
Every other year.
Every other year. Okay. And I got a message from the American Lung Association where they gave Maine a grade and how well we're doing with smoking. And we've been consistently getting better. And then all of a sudden we fell into a failing grade because of flavored tobacco. Is when they're talking about vaping in here, I think they're talking about vaping tobacco, but is there anything in here where it talks specifically about how?
No, it just refers to it in the questions as vaping.
Okay.
And I'd have to go back, but I don't think it references whether it's tobacco vaping or marijuana vaping. But it doesn't mention flavored. I think it's all just
yeah.
Yeah.
And my last question is, I think it's so interesting that the difference between middle school and high school that you pointed out. And is there anything in it, or is there any way of tracking like how that change impacts our students? Like, are there students who just started doing any of these things at high school level? Do they ever ask, like, when did you start doing these things?
No.
Okay.
In order to do that analysis, you would have to know how they answered in middle school, and it's
Right.
anonymous.
Or the question said, within the question, it'd be interesting to say, did you, here's your answer, and then it was like, when did this happen? I don't.
Yeah, and
Just-
they don't ask that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Jamie, you're on remote. Did you want to comment?
I'd love to. This is, I try very hard to keep my day job out of my role here at RSU1, but this is the one night of the year I get to just thank everyone and talk a little bit more about, first of all, that we have a superintendent or assistant superintendent who can give a presentation that would rival a public health expert is pretty incredible, and something that you don't see throughout other districts in the state. So Katie, I just want to thank you you and Patrick for being open to learning and adjusting and really meeting young people where they are. It is getting recognition, but more importantly, our young people are feeling better. And they have to feel better and feel like they matter in order for them to learn. I think the other positive thing that I'm seeing is the new leadership at Bath Middle School has been incredible for changing the culture and how students view education. And I want to mention, Jennifer, you asked about that question, and the question about have you felt sad or hopeless for 2 weeks or more? That question has not changed in the 10 years that I have been looking and studying this information. It's an indicator that someone might be struggling with major depression, which of course is a concern for suicide. And that's why they ask those very specific questions. Um, I wanted to mention that I happened to sit next to one of my favorite social workers from the high school. And just so you know, they're all my favorites. But I said to her, there was a time, maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, that you and I spoke every single day about a number of students. There were times where I would come to the high school once or twice to help provide support to students. And I said to her, "Are we missing kids? Because I haven't talked to you for almost 2 full years in that capacity." And she said, it's all of the work that the school board and the school is doing to meet the needs of our young people. And they're actually getting connected to the supports that they need. And I know this can be a contentious conversation when it comes to budgeting, but these are real lives for children in our community, and we should be so proud of this. And the other last thing that I'll mention is we were recently reached out to by the National Center for Homeless Education, which is in Washington, D.C. They are hosting a virtual conference at the end of February, and reached out to our McKinney Vento, which is our homeless liaison at the Department of Education, and asked, we'd like to do a spotlight on Maine. Do you have any recommendations of schools that are doing really good work? And they recommended RSU1 and Midcoast Youth. So Katie and I will get to share at a national level all of the work that the school board and the teachers and the administration and everyone's been doing, including our partners, to really make a difference in the lives of our young people. So I just thank you all for your support, and can't say enough good things about CPP every day. I always have to plug CPP. So thank you.
Jamie, were you as encouraged by some of these scores? I'm curious.
I was
As I was.
incredibly encouraged, and I'll tell you that when the data was released, I got a 10 o'clock text message from one of my public health experts who said, "You were never going to believe the MIHAS data. What we're doing is working." And that, just to get that, she couldn't wait to email me the next morning. I'm very, very encouraged. And again, we have a lot of folks that ask us how we're doing this. And, Jen, I'll also mention the other part about the substance use and when it begins. We see a lot of kids in grades 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's really when the substance use is beginning for a lot of people. And the access since the legalization of marijuana has just magnified how kids can access marijuana, and then just the misconception that it's a plant, so therefore it's totally natural. And of course, we know how harmful it is for brain development and adolescent use. But that's all. Thank you,
you.
Katie.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Other comments, questions? Yeah, Kurt.
Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone said. Thank you for that report. It was
Mm.
great. I'm encouraged that so many people are encouraged by this data, but I feel nervous because just looking at, I mean, I'm going to totally cherry pick the data here and not, and anyone could do that on any of this. I'm just wondering if I'm understanding this right. So I feel safe at my school, 84% agree versus 2023 when 86.8% agreed with that statement. So to me, I don't know if that's statistically significant, but it's telling me that students are feeling less safe at school.
Will you go back?
It's on
Can you, there's
the,
like a weird buzzing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
it's number 9. I think it's on the second slide, maybe. Yeah, right there.
So, sorry, I should have, if I had extended the screenshot, see how there is the score, the range under each score? In their reporting, if you don't see like the H or the L, the high or the low, some of the small percentage changes aren't statistically significant enough, so you can consider it if it's within 1 or 2 as maintaining.
And
Does
is
that make sense?
Is that in
So-
relation to the state average or the?
This is where we were in 2020. This is where we are now. And so while it's 2 points-ish, it's not statistically significant, which is why we consider it staying equal. And theirs, this was theirs, and this is theirs. So they're all relatively maintained. Each question has a different range band. We'd have to talk a lot of statistics for me to be able to make it make sense, but how you can read that is they are not feeling much less safe, nor are they feeling much safer. We're essentially maintaining safety. Does that make sense?
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to observe this. I'm not trying to like make any kind of statement.
Oh, no, yeah.
Then
I just
don't
want to
feel good about that, I guess. I don't know if that's not trying to make it
Yeah, I
a
mean,
big
Kurt,
statement.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, anything that goes down, I mean, we should be paying attention to as well. I think that one, in a conversation I had not too long ago with different school systems, just speculation was everything that's going on in the world and different things that are happening in some states and in some countries in schools, tend to make or maybe can contribute to some of this data. I don't know that for sure, but that conversation has come up to try to understand why it's, why it's increased.
I see what you're asking now. So is what I think we would want this number to be 100% always, obviously, right? And essentially when the people at Maine Health who put this out showed us how to read it, that's essentially and maybe Jamie can chime in if I'm not explaining this correctly, but if you think of all the kids in the state, you're comparing yourselves to how every student feels. And while we always want to have the best scores, obviously, so kids are feeling supported and safe in every question and making good choices, you really need to worry if the aggregate of every kid is significantly different than how most kids are feeling, because then that takes into account what Patrick is saying, that when they read that question, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? I feel safe at my school. There could be a lot of different ways, a 13-year-old, a 17-year-old interprets what that means compared to what you think it means. Some of them might be thinking about weapons. Some of them might be thinking about friendships. Some might be thinking about their report card, isn't as great as they want, and they don't feel like coming to school when their parents are going to be mad at them is a great situation for them. And so I hope what I'm saying is making sense.
Yeah, I don't feel good about those numbers.
No, there's a
As
lot
a-
of
as a
numbers
member of
here
the
that have
community.
gone up that I still feel not great about.
But yeah, but I agree with what people said about some of the other numbers that are, I would say, improving.
Yeah.
And I just had one other comment, is that looking at the question, during the past 12 months, did you ever seriously consider attempting suicide? I don't know if that's the best marker of how people's mental health is. Maybe it's more what Jamie said about, have you felt sad or hopeless almost every day for the last 2 weeks? But I have the data for each school. So that question, did you ever seriously consider attempting suicide? The greatest percentage is at Woolwich, 24.5%. The lowest percentage is at Bath Middle School, 16.2%. I'm going to assume that's statistically significant. And then Morris High School is 20.7%, which is not what I would have expected.
Yeah.
And I guess the numbers are going from roughly 1 in 4 students to 1 in 5 students, which is definitely improving, but it's still really, it just makes me, it's really eye-opening to think that 1 in 5 students have felt that way in the last 12 months. And I think it's, as board members, that is something that we should really be, not forgetting about even for a day. Not that I don't know what we do, but it's just, we should not forget that that's, I mean, as a school, as a county, as a state, and as a nation, that's pretty incredible. So
Couldn't
agree
thanks
more.
again for everything.
Yeah, I have nothing to say. I agree.
Well, it is, and that's why looking at these reports, which is a moment in time to kind of evaluate all the things that are happening every day, all these programs, all the work you do every day. And this is just a moment in time to take a step back to see, okay, how, where are the trends? Because if there's a lot happening on the substance abuse or the mental health, then we have to talk about, well, what aren't we doing that we need to do? Well, this is working, keep doing that. And if something isn't working, this is the time to, do we have to pivot? Do we have to come up with something else? And we have to talk about it all the time and continue to work on it. And, Katie and Jamie and other folks are, within the school district and these other organizations are doing that every day. And so, this is highlighting it and showing where we still need to. And so that's what'll come up. That's what'll come up during budget. That's where, as a board, it's kind of, I think we try really hard to set the positive tone to show what we're supportive of and all of that. And then when it comes down to budget, that's when we have to sit there and say, okay, where if we have choice A or choice B and what's affecting what with this money, how do we continue to do that work? And that's, so there'll be more conversations certainly regarding that. I appreciate you highlighting it and bringing it up, Kurt. Are those more reports? What is it?
These are broken out by school.
Oh, that's what I
didn't
didn't
pass
see.
them out.
I didn't.
I didn't make copies of those for everybody because
Oh,
they're
you don't?
really,
Okay.
really long. It has every question.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Yeah, Kurt's been holding all the information. He's been holding all the information. All right.
I'll be quick here. And Jamie, I don't know if it's to you or to Katie, but it's interesting that you talk about going or presenting at this with this McKinney-Vento or being the reference from McKinney-Vento. When I'm looking at ACEs here, I don't see in stability in housing or homelessness as part of one of the ACEs. And I was just wondering, is this a subset of those ACEs topics? And it's interesting how it's kind of, we're coming back to homelessness with McKinney-Vento, and I know they do much more than just homelessness, but
That usually falls under, it could be listed as a household challenge, but it's also physical neglect.
is housing instability?
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Just on that little chart. I mean, I pulled that chart from who knows where, one of the ACEs research reports. But homelessness is definitely any sort of instability like that. It could be, a household challenge or definitely physical neglect.
Thank you.
Food insecurity, all those things would be part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? That was, really insightful, and thank you for all your hard work and the analysis, Katie.
Yeah.
Awesome job as always. Thank you for everything.
Can I say one more quick thing?
Yeah, of course.
I think when you're just looking at some of this for the first time, it's incredibly disheartening and sad, and it still is. And so I don't want to sound like it's all roses and happiness, but I think considering how many things we've put in place and how hard we've been working, even the little percentage changes, that's what Jamie and I get giddy over, because it is so hard to take. It's nice to see when you get traction, because you know that equals people. So
No, that's great.
but I don't want it to seem like the other things that aren't going well, or if something stays the same, doesn't matter. It all matters, which is why we'll keep doing it. But at least we know we have a little bit of evidence that, we're doing something that's
Everything you're doing
okay.
makes, yeah, and
we'll do more. I've actually, Jenna reminded me, I forgot to do the slide of what's coming next, but we'll do more. We always do more. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll update us on, oh, you've got it right there, what's next. And yeah, so there'll be more with that. The other thing that I noticed was, even where we might have been higher than the rest of the state, it seemed like where there were improvements, we were at least, if not better, in their change. So whatever happened with Maine, the overall state, it improved 8 points or something. We tended to also improve 8 points. So I mean, it seemed, it wasn't like, oh, we only improved 1 point and then the rest of the state went. So it seemed, at least with those examples you gave us, pretty consistent. So
And
thank you,
Lou,
Katie.
I'll
Yeah.
mention too that, Katie's right. I've been looking at these statistics for the last 10 years. And I guess that's why my excitement is showing, because in 2016, when we were losing students to suicide on a pretty regular basis, those numbers were even more dismal than they are now. So I don't want to lose sight of what Kurt said, that these are, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. But we are definitely, the things that we're doing are mattering. And I want that to be what everyone takes away from tonight.
Well, it does, and it's why, Jamie, it's why you got into this in the first place. So it's been it shows a huge movement forward. So thank you. Okay. Thank you all for that. It's important work. Now we go to first reading of board policies. This is not an action. I'm just going to read through them for the record, and then I'll ask if anybody has any comments or questions. So this is the DKC, expense authorization and reimbursement, DKCR, expense reimbursement procedure, JICIA, weapons, violence, and school safety, JKAA, use of physical restraint and seclusion, and JKAA-R, procedures on physical restraint and seclusion. I assume this just as things come in rotation to review, and things that are recommended to change for policy. Any questions on these? Yes, Kurt.
DKC-R, expense reimbursement procedure. On page 228E, it says side trips for personnel reasons. Is that supposed to say personal? It's
Sorry, any other language or questions regarding any of the policies? Okay, if you have any, let us know. Otherwise, it'll be an action item on the next agenda to move forward. Okay, overnight and out-of-state field trip requests. This is an action item. There are 4 requests. let's see, Bath Tech to Bangor, Morris High to Broadway, New York, Morris High to New Gloucester, and Morris High to Pownell. You've got the information there. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So I really appreciate that we've been able to add the funding source to kind of get that sense of, where the expenses are coming from. My question would be, is that with these, especially the overnight ones, does the funding source apply to the staff expense? And also, does this having the staff away create a sub expense for any of these 4 trips?
Yeah, I mean, the first question, typically, if it's on there and it says grant funded, then it includes the staff member. Your second question, I can't answer on all of these. Well, I can, I guess I'll do my best. Bath Tech, it typically falls on a PD day. I don't know if that's the same this year, Katie. So our staff are all going up there. So they're not missing kids because those kids stay back at their sending schools. No. But if you're talking about like 13.3, there would be a sub. And then because that is during the week, but then the other two, 13.3 would be probably 1 because that is during the week. But that's a hard one it's a statewide competition, so it's kind of hard to do that on a weekend. But 13.3 does not, because again, that's on a weekend. So there was no subs involved in that one. 13.3D, I mean, the last one. No, D is happening on the weekend.
Would the funding source here cover both the staff expenses and the sub expenses, or do we pay subs outside of these?
Deb, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we would still take it from our sub line, right? I mean, so the grant is funding basically for, say, if there's an accommodation or if there's travel reimbursement or something like that, but not for the sub cost.
Not subs, okay. And for the staff expense, if you're doing overnight, from my personal experience, you're on a lot of the time. Like, is that something that kind of is a regular school day hours reimbursement, or is it even more? Like, is there even more expense related to the staffing that goes on?
No, there's not additional compensation for,
Okay.
I mean.
Yeah, great. Now, next negotiations. We're going to hear about that. Thanks, Jen. Okay. So let's, can I have a motion for these, unless there's other questions about the field trips?
I move to approve the field trip requests.
Okay. Second. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Okay. Thanks, Jamie. All right, we're all in. And we have another action item. I'm going to hand over to Patrick for it's a selection of the architectural firm for the new elementary school. Exciting stuff.
So I'm just going to read something to you to keep it succinct. But following a highly competitive selection process with a strong field of qualified firms, we recommend LaValle Brensinger Architects to lead the design of the new elementary school project. We had to consider interview presentation, qualifications, references, and relevant project experience. And the team concluded that LaValle is the best overall fit for the district's goals and needs at this time. LaValle brings extensive experience in educational design and has a strong regional presence at offices in Portland, Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. Recent work, not all their work, but the recent work includes RSU17 Oxford Hills Elementary Schools project, Midcoast School of Technology. We are familiar with them where we're sitting today, Morris High School and Bath Tech, and Swampscott Elementary School in Massachusetts. The firm is also completing the Wyndham Raymond Middle School, which is the largest school construction project ever undertaken in Maine, which is scheduled to open this fall. So the team is confident in LaValle Brensinger's ability to deliver a high-quality project and is excited to work with them again on this important initiative. questions you have. We had 9 firms apply. We interviewed 5, and it was a difficult, challenging decision between 2 firms in the end.
Will we get any of the same staff to work with us again?
Well, some, not, the lead architect that was on this project no longer works with them, but we'll have a person that was kind of, I guess, second in command, and then a new person and their team, which we were very impressed with.
Great. So may I have a motion, please?
Sure. I move to approve LaValle Printing as the architectural firm for the Dykeville Elementary School project. And further move to authorize the superintendent to execute the contract with the architectural firm as part of the state-approved project.
Excellent. Who wants to second that? Okay, good. Any further discussion or questions after hearing that? No. All in favor? All right, we got ourselves an architectural.
And I would just quickly share that starting next week, they will be doing a site review they'll be collaborating with the city of Bath. And again, we've done a site study of the old site that it's on, but we also need to do a thorough review of the city of Bath to see if there's better sites. So we will be doing that. That's part of the project. And so that will happen, as well as a analysis about consolidation, because the state has to, we have to provide that report for the state to okay the consolidation piece. And then the other one would be, we don't have to, I shouldn't say this, but the new versus renovation, I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion. But we have a meeting with the state on Friday, and we'll be taking up all these topics with them. And so we're going to be moving as quickly as possible. And LaValle will be meeting with staffs very soon at both schools.
If it wasn't the same site and there was a new site, and that new site combined Dyke Newell and Fisher Mitchell, that would leave those 2 other schools not required or used by the RSU, and therefore return to the city of Bath. Is that okay?
14.0, we have a review board committee assignments. There was a list in there of who's on what committee. And
Yeah, I put that in your backup.
Yeah.
I haven't, Kim, I don't know if you've talked with Anita. Does she want to continue? Do you know? Okay. So policy, we also have Sandy Stenquist, who's a community member. She serves on that committee. Finance, Tim Wiley is our community member. And facilities, we have Alan Walton and Bill Perkins, who you will recognize the names. They're still on facilities. So you can see the names there. I have asked Kurt to possibly consider the building committee that we're going to have. Yeah, but you said you needed a specific day, so we're going to accommodate your schedule. And then, Rachel, how it works is, if you have time, is to maybe just look at these and consider, is there one that you might have an interest in trying? And then we can always shuffle around. So I guess I'm saying is, if you want to change or you want to join a new one or anything like that, then just reach out to me and we can make it work. So that's it. Oh, Jamie?
Oh, I was just going to tell you that the dropout committee is right at a time that I'm not, it's coincides with my board meeting. So I'm never able to attend that these days, in case anyone has a desire to choose that.
And then 15.0, we have discussion approval of our board goals, and good job writing
Well,
all that together.
No, I removed one goal, and then I added in the student achievement growth focus, and that was with the help of Beth Kaiser and Katie. So there are, that you might have questions on 4 because it is,
Yep.
a little technical, but they both felt like that was a very measurable for our population and for our youngest learners,
Yep.
something that can be tangible. So again, I did my best, but that's why we're having this discussion, to see if you have edits or
Yeah.
suggestions.
Anybody want to start?
These are amazing goals. These are incredible. They're crafted in a way that I think are just approachable and understandable and clear. And I think that they are offering some new areas that we haven't thought of before. And I just love number 4. I mean, I love them all, but number 4 is great. And I just want to thank you for the work to put into them. It's going to be a pleasure on reporting on that this coming year. Pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I don't know how you follow that up, but Katie, did you want to sound like you wanted to make a comment?
I just wanted to say that for number 4, even if you don't understand the wording, essentially what both of those are getting at is being able to show, hopefully, growth over time
Right,
in
actual
student achievement
measurable.
results. And so it won't be something that we can look at all the time, because you can see a lot of it's the beginning of the year versus the end of the year. And so when Beth and I spoke, we talked about how this one would best be addressed at the end of the year board meetings with a presentation. So that's essentially how we'll probably do that one. So it won't be something I'll be able to share out about all the time. But I can share out at other results. For
Right. I
things,
mean, if
yeah.
there's other things relating to the
Absolutely.
mathematics and literacy, certainly
Right.
you can update
But like
us, and that would
that
fit that goal too.
Exactly. And that specific score, we could always do at the end of the year present, like May or June.
Sounds perfect.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
I move to approve these awesomely written.
Second by Jennifer. All right. All in favor? Okay, these are our new goals.
I definitely think through the STEM plus M, we sort of got a goal number 3. And facilities and operations, obviously picking a firm. And communication and engagement, obviously looking at the MIHAS data and what's illustrated in our community would work for that one. So we did a great job.
All right. Now we go on to 16.0 personnel items.
Yeah, we just have 3 retirements. We knew they were coming, but just didn't make it in time for the December meeting. So Constant Panetsky, who art teacher here at Morse High School, like to thank her for 28 years of service to the district. Claire Shoemaker, ed tech at Woolwich, matching 28 years of service. And then Geraldine Toll, who was an academic interventionist at Fisher Mitchell for 38 years in the district.
38.
And then we have 1 resignation, Heather Sinclair, science teacher at Woolwich, and like to thank her for 5 years of service.
All right. Unless there's anything else, next meeting dates, Monday, February 23rd. But before that, what do we have? It's next week, right?
Yeah, on Monday at 5, we have a board workshop, and then at 6, we have an executive session.
And is that all right here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we might
So-
use a different room for part of the executive session, but yeah,
Okay.
just come here.
So come here
For 5 o'clock
on
especially.
Monday,
Yep.
right? Okay. All right. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
That's all right. All right, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
I